enough group for us to try to address your questions and your needs. There are some materials that we will pass out later on for you. We hope this is a very informative session and worthy of your time with us. First slide. So our agenda for today is to welcome you, what I have started to do, to give you an introduction of some of our council members who are present. I will go over all of the members, though some of them are not physically here, some are online, and some just could not make it at all. I hope all of you are familiar with the Virgin Islands Agriculture Plan. I was fortunate enough to work on the development of that plan, presented it to the legislature and the governor. We received funding. And so we want to kind of remind you of the plan, to also talk about the legislative support that we received. There was some funding that was provided, close to $2 million for the implementation of the agriculture plan. So part of the reason why we wanted this town hall was to share with you how we are, as a council, using those funds and how we hope to continue to use them. The council status assessment was a decision that we made as a council to broaden the agriculture plan to not only relate to farming, but also to the fishing industry. The task force, when we were working on the plan, our charge was really to focus on farming. However, by the end of the plan, we realized that the fishing industry plays a critical role in regards to food security, sustainability. And so the task force charged the local Food and Farm Council to look at the issue of fishing and the fishing industry. And so we have an update in that regard as well. And then we want to talk about the current status of the plan and our implementation. What progress have we made, how we have spent some of those funds, and how we hope to spend those going forward. I will spend a lot of time in that section talking about what we're calling the Public-Private Partnership Investment Fund, which is a vehicle for us to try to serve as a catalyst for getting more resources to farmers and to those in the fishing industry so we can enhance productivity. And then we're going to end up by having an open discussion, not only to hear your questions, but to hear from some of the council members who are here, and make sure you leave with the information that you need. Next slide. I won't go through this word for word, but I wanted to kind of remind you of what the local Food and Farm Council's mission, because that is the umbrella that we are operating under. It is not the agriculture plan task force anymore. It is a council created by law. And our mission is to make sure that the local food system in our territory is prospering. And from our perspective, that means it's growing, that it is producing. And as you see in that mission, it is not just farmers, but fishers, and it's also the community, because we believe that gardening and planting at people's homes is also a way to help with food security and sustainability. We are committed to making sure that what we do is data-driven, that it's not just us sitting in a room guessing at what we think is the right thing. So later on, we'll talk about some surveys that we have done and others that will be forthcoming. And finally, as I indicated, The individuals on the council are there primarily because of legislation. My full-time job is being president of the University of the Virgin Islands, but the legislature and the governor said you have another job, and that is to serve on the local food and farm council. But they didn't just do it to me, they did it to some other people as well who have full-time jobs. But this is a labor of love, and I want to transition to the next slide, which will give you a sense of who some of our members are. That may be too small for you to see, but I will try to walk through it quickly. I am honored to co-chair the council with our Commissioner of Agriculture, Dr. Peterson, who is here. I will shortly ask him to share a few words with you in this opening session. But the two of us have been given the charge to kind of oversee this particular effort. There are other individuals who, by statute, are required to be on this council. The first is Dr. Usman Adamu, the Dean of our School of Agriculture at UVI. Dean Adamu is here, and we're glad to have him. He will chime in as we move along as well. The Director of EDA, Wayne Biggs, has played a critical role in the council. He is not here today, but we will talk a lot about the role that EDA plays in this public-private partnership. The Honorable Dion Wells Hedrington, there was a part of the agricultural plan that says we have to embed agriculture into the curriculum, and therefore we wanted the Commissioner of Education to be part of that process, and so she is on the council by legislation. DPNR plays a critical role, especially for the fishing industry, because they regulate that entire industry. And so the executive or the director of DPNR, or I guess it's really commissioner of DPNR, is a part of the board as well, or the council. These were individuals who by statute were appointed. But the statute said if one of these individuals can't do it, they can designate individuals to be there to work on their behalf. And so the next slide, if we could move to that, talks about individuals who were designated by one of the individuals who were appointed by statute to serve with us. The Department of Education had two designees, Dr. Renee Charleswell and Mr. Harith Wikrima, who is here. He also wears the hat of being the leader of Island Green Living here on St. John. He was also on the Agricultural Plan Task Force. So both of them have served as the Commissioner of Education's designee. We have also had individuals from DPNR. When Commissioner Oriel is not able to attend, he has appointed Dr. Nicole Angeli and Dr. Haptis to be present. So those individuals we call designee because the statute allows us to appoint individuals when we can't make it. The Commissioner Peterson and I, we just haven't gotten smart enough to start designating people. So we come to all the meetings, and so maybe after we get a little smarter, we'll follow what some others are doing. One of the challenges we ran into was the statute also requires that the governor appoints farmers from each island to be on the council, and also individuals from the broader food industry to be on the council. The process in regards to farmers got underway, that is of designating individuals, but we wanted to start our work. So what we asked individuals who the governor had already designated, but they had not gone through the official process, to come on as honorary members, meaning that they're there in the room contributing just like everyone else, but we wanted to make sure that we know that process that the governor really controls is not yet completed. And so we have Ms. Abiba Solis and Mr. Edmund Tetry. These are two members who are going through the process that the governor oversees in regard, the governor and the Senate oversees in naming individuals to the council. He also has to name someone from St. John. That process has started as well. We're not yet at the point of indicating that person's name, but we are hoping that pretty soon the St. John representative will be a part of the honorary members. And then there were two farmers who were involved in the development of the plan. Nate Olive and Royce Cricky. And so we asked them, because they were so familiar with the plan, to also serve as honorary members of the council. One of the other issues that we have to come to grips with is that at the time the act was passed, the farming community was not envisioned as being a part of the council. We have changed that, so we will have to ask for an amendment so that individuals from the fishing community are a part of the council as well. And we probably will have one or more of them to serve as honorary members until that occurs. We really don't want to make critical decisions about the farming industry, about the fishing industry, without having people from those industries at the table. And that has been our way of addressing it. So before we move on, I would like for our Commissioner of Agriculture to say a few words. As I indicated, he has played a critical role in the development of the local Food and Farm Council. He has certainly played a critical role in helping us move this process along. So I would ask if he could share a few words with us.
Good evening, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to be here tonight. I, like Dr. Hall says, we co-chair the Farm and Food Council. We meet every 2 weeks. And a lot has been happening during those meetings, and we want to share with you tonight some of those outcomes. This is the very first time in the territory that we've had a plan for developing agriculture mandated by our very own legislature. That's a big thing. And there is no way that we're going to move ahead without your input. Although we're a council making decisions, we want you to recognize that we look at you as an extension of our council. So we want input from our farmers, input from our fishers, but also input from our general community. Hence, we're here tonight. But even as we move along with our decision making, we want to ask of you along the way to continue providing us your support and your input. You're going to hear from us tonight a means by which you can stay in touch with us, either individually or by way of our website. Please do so. Please continue to register your input with us because we want to make sure that we move along with your support, your guidance as well. So I am happy to be here. It's a pleasure working along with the entire council, but also it's a pleasure working along with the community in general. And I am looking forward to working along with all of you to making this industry of agriculture and fisheries develop to its full potential, not just on St. Croix or St. Thomas, but also inclusive of St. John. Again, I'm very happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
No, thank you, Commissioner. All of these individuals, as the commissioner indicated, are very engaged in this process despite having full-time jobs. We do meet every 2 weeks, and these are very intense meetings. There are things that we have to do in between meetings. So it really is a commitment, and I appreciate him and all of the council members for their participation. However, we cannot do this work without staff. So if we could go to the next slide. One of the things that was embedded in the agriculture plan was this vision of having a local food and farm coordinator, someone who's on the ground, someone who is working with farmers, working with members of the fishing industry to convey the information on an ongoing basis, to hear from them, to be a resource for these individuals. We were very fortunate to be able to secure the services of Summer Sibley Brown, who is here. I am going to ask her to share a few words as well, but I really want to emphasize that those of us who are on the council, we can create vision, we can create policies, but you need to have someone who you can go to, where you can get questions answered, and who can be a resource. One of the things that made all of us, but especially Commissioner Peterson and I excited, was the credibility and the reputation that she already has within the agriculture community. And to have her be a source of support to this effort was just very encouraging. So I would ask Ms. Brown, Sibley Brown, if she would share a few words.
Good evening, everyone. I am Summer Sibley Brown. I am happy to be on the island of St. John in person with my fellow St. Johnians, Virgin Islanders, and as both Dr. Hall and Dr. Peterson shared, like, this is actually a really momentous moment. As a person who has been advocating for agriculture for the past 12 years and building relationships with farmers, this is, I feel like, a moment where we are cohering, where there is private sector, public sector, civic sector investment in really moving us forward. So I am honored to serve as the first person in this position, hopefully not the last, but to begin to build out this system and deepen the relationship between the Food and Farm Council and the farming community on all 3 islands. And I'm just really here to help. So y'all, most of you have my contact. I'll make sure you have it before we leave. And yeah, I'm excited too.
Right. Thank you very much. There's another staff person who is just extremely critical as well, and that is Ms. Jaquette Maynard. She is online, she is not here, but she is the one behind the scenes helping the council to get out our information, taking our minutes, making sure we do what we are supposed to do. And she worked also on the development of the agricultural plan when we were a task force. So I just want to publicly thank her for her commitment to supporting us in the way that she does. There are some vacancies that we will be working to fill so that the local Food and Farm Council really has the resources to do what is needed. We want to, over time, provide some assistance to whoever is the local Food and Farm Council leader. Right now, it is Ms. Sibley Brown, but we also hope that there will be an executive assistant, because the more we do, the more work there is going to be, and we want to make sure there is support. One of the things the farming community advocated for, because they are so dependent upon the Department of Agriculture for many things, was to have additional staff members in the Department of Agriculture. So that was included in the plan. It was also funded. Commissioner Peterson is in the process of searching for some of these positions. I just want to emphasize a few of them an agriculture engineer, the fiscal and personnel manager, and a plant pathologist. And the plant pathologist in particular, I recall at town halls, was something that farmers were saying, we need that expertise on the ground. And so we're hoping that these searches will lead to us having those additional resources. Next slide. Just want to quickly remind you of what I would say were the 3 critical acts that got us to this momentous moment, as Ms. Sibley Brown called it. The first one, Act 8411, which was to create the process to do the plan. Without that first act, we wouldn't be where we are right now. I certainly would not have been involved in this process, and that was critical. However, Act 8716 is what created the Local Food and Farm Council. And it indicates very specifically who should be on the council, what our mission is. We are required to report back to the legislature on our progress. We are to monitor the plan to see if we're making progress, to make changes to the plan if we feel that that is necessary. But all of those things are embedded in the law. But the one that has been most important is Act 8700, which provided funding. Because it's one thing to have a plan, but if you have no funding, then you can't implement that particular plan. So as I indicated, through this act, we received over $2 million to implement the various aspects of the plan. Now, as someone who was on the task force, the reality is we asked for a lot more than $2 million. So we see the $2 million as seed money to get us going and to demonstrate that we are doing the right thing. But that act, 8700, is what created the possibility for us to at least be able to start down this road. Next slide. As I indicated, one of the early decisions that the council had to make was, should we include the fishing community into the agriculture plan, even though they weren't a part of it when the plan was submitted to the legislature. The task force said, this is an area worth looking at. Council, you should look at it. And we did look at it. Our first step, though, was to conduct a survey of the fishing community. We didn't get a lot of responses, but, and we worked with DPNR because, as I said, they oversee and help regulate the fishing industry. But we did get 27 participants. Most of those were commercial farmers. We had some recreational, I keep saying farmers, but were commercial fishers, 6 recreational fishers, and others falling into different areas. We didn't get any responses from the fishing community in St. John, so these were responses just from St. Thomas and St. Croix. We are always open, and that's what these town halls are about, so that we can get information in other ways than the survey. I won't go through all of these, and I'm sure the print is too small for you to even see, but we kind of asked one critical question, which was, how do you envision the fishing industry evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? And one of the striking responses was the sense among people in this industry that I don't know if the next generation will continue to do what I am doing. And therefore, the government needs to play a role in ensuring that the next generation will continue this trade that I am involved in. So that was a very resounding and sobering response. Others felt that there needed to be more enhancement of what they're doing, and I think one of the programs that we will talk about soon relates to that. Others were concerned about the sustainability of the waters and the sustainability of what is coming from the ocean and what needs to be done to ensure that this resource is not depleted. There were those who felt that there needed to be new methods that the fishing industry would use going forward. So, and it's not up here, but when we surveyed farmers under the original survey, they indicated that education, support, equipment were some of the high priorities for them. When we surveyed the fishing industry, they said the same thing. So the council, I think, felt comfortable that we don't need a different program for the fishing industry. We just need to bring everyone under the same umbrella, and the programs that we were providing originally under the agricultural plan could work here as well. But this was a major change for us, and I think going forward, having farmers and fishers under the same umbrella, talking about their needs together, is going to be a wonderful thing for the territory. Next slide. Okay, so I do want to give you an update on how we have been utilizing the resources that have been allocated. Again, I apologize for the small print. We can certainly give you copies of the PowerPoint, and we'll show you how you can get that. I think we're even taking people's emails and addresses, so we can certainly send it out. The first thing was that the Department of Agriculture was awarded $350,000 to hire a local food and farm coordinator to play this critical role, but also those other positions that you saw listed were funded as well. So we've made some progress. We have an interim local food and farm coordinator, and we're searching for those other positions. $500,000 was given through the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority to create this public-private investment fund, which in a minute I will spend, or probably 5 minutes, I will spend a lot of time going over. But the task force, when we were first looking at this issue about how we can enhance productivity, felt that one of the ways was by investing in the industry. And so this fund that was provided is for us to do just that, to invest where progress is needed, and we hope that that will increase productivity. Likewise, $500,000 was provided to the Department of Education because there was the sentiment, especially from the farmers, but I believe the fishing industry is saying the same thing, that unless we teach the next generation about these industries, they aren't going to do it. And we're not going to have the next generation of farmers and fishers. So the plan here was to embed agricultural education into the entire school system, and especially the public school system. The Department of Education felt that this was not enough to do the entire plan that we proposed, which was in every school to have an agriculture coordinator, to have activities for students. But they did feel, with the funds allocated, that they could do a pilot program. So they have selected 7 schools to be a part of this pilot. where students will be exposed to agriculture and fishing from early grades all the way up. Harith Wickriemer can talk in greater detail about that, but I see a hand. There is. There was a comprehensive curriculum. Dean Adamo and Mr. Wickriemer were on the subcommittee that developed that curriculum. That is what we were asking the Senate to fund, which was take this curriculum, embed it through the entire school system. Our cost for that was $8 million. They, for various reasons, felt they could not afford to provide that. So what they provided was at least enough to get started. And if you want information about the curriculum, we can send that. It's embedded in the agriculture plan. Next slide, please. There was $250,000 provided to create agricultural business centers. One of the things the farmers said to us when we were doing the first town halls was that just as there are resources to help small businesses to get started, to keep their books, to incorporate, to help with accounting, there should be something like this just for the farming community. And so the small business development centers have worked with us to create what we're calling agriculture business centers. They have been launched already. I have some more information later on. The director of the Agriculture Business Center has been hired. I am delighted to announce that Shay Roberts was just recently hired as the director for the centers on all 3 islands. They've already launched, they're up and running, and you as farmers, you as fishers can go get information, help them, help you in moving forward. When we get to the grant program, I will come back and talk about how the agriculture business centers can be of great assistance to you. There was also a perspective during the development of the agriculture business plan that irrigation and water quality was critical to the success of the farming industry. However, when we worked with consultants to figure out what it would take to really create a comprehensive irrigation system, the cost was enormous. But one of the other things the consultants indicated was that there are federal dollars that can be used to address some of these issues. But to get those federal dollars, we need grant writers. We need individuals familiar with what is called sponsored programs so that you can submit those grants and obtain it. And so there was 250 provided to do that work and another 120 to hire a grant writer. We have already identified over 10 different grant sources that this team is working on. 2 of those grants have already been submitted, and we believe over time that there will be resources coming to the territory that will help with water, irrigation, and other farm and now fishing-related needs. Next slide. There was also a need to create a local food and farm fund. The belief was that we need to create a vehicle so that individuals in the private sector can make charitable contributions to farming. And so our goal here is to create this entity like a foundation where wealthy individuals who are interested in farming and the fishing industry in the Virgin Islands can make donations. We are working with an attorney to put that in place, and hopefully we'll be able to announce that. There was additional funds provided for the operation of the council, for developing a food and farm symbol that I'll share with you lately, and to also make sure that we are systematically collecting data, and I'll talk about that at the end. So those were the programs that have been funded. We've made significant progress in regards to some of those areas, but there are others where we still have work to do. Next slide. I mentioned about the agriculture business centers. This is just some additional information. In case you can't see it, there is a website. It's called www.myviabc, and ABC Agriculture Business Center.org. Please go on their site. You can make appointments if you want to meet with them. They will be distributing different information about how they operate. And again, this application that I'll be talking about in a moment, they will be there to assist you. Next slide. This was their grand opening, the agriculture business centers and their locations. Again, we will get this information out to you so you will know how to access their resources. Their hours are 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Fridays. Next slide. This is the logo and food symbol that we developed with input from a lot of farmers. This is our logo that we use in all of our communications because we want that branding. However, if you could go to the next slide. This is the symbol that we're asking individuals to put on the products that are locally grown, caught, developed. We brought some of the stickers here, and we will pass them out later. We believe that it is important that when individuals are in the territory, that they know when they are getting locally grown or locally produced products. We hope eventually that this could be a marketing tool outside of the Virgin Islands, but we are asking that individuals who are in the industries will use these on a systematic basis. Next slide. We also developed an email address, and we also have a website. And if you want to be in touch with us, or if you want to communicate, please use these resources. If you want to take a picture of this using your phone so you can have it, please do. But we will make sure you have all of this information available. Ms. Sibley Brown will be a resource, but these are the best ways for you to communicate. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water because this next portion is going to be very involved. Thank you. No, it doesn't matter.
I'll make a comment in the meantime. With respect to the positions that we are looking to fill at the Department of Ag, you probably saw up there an ag engineer, did you not? So just to clarify, an ag engineer or a civil engineer would be sufficient. That person, at one point in time, we had a person on board that was an ag engineer, and what that person did for us saved us a lot of money. That person helped to design ponds, design storage systems, etc. And we, at this point in time, sourced a lot of those efforts outside. Cost us a lot of money, And so we want to get back to the point where we fully staff our department and we can do more in-house for you, the farmers, and for you, the fishers. So an ag engineer or a civil engineer would suffice. Just making sure you know that.
Thank you. Yes, question?
We are preparing to promote it outside right now. At one point in time, again, our department did have a plant pathologist. We no longer have one. There's also no plant pathologist at the University School of Ag. So the point is, this person, once housed within the Department of Ag, will complement the resources that we have right now within the UVI School of Agriculture. The UVI School of Ag has a competent entomologist. We need an entomologist and a plant pathologist to work hand in hand to support you, the farmers. So we are getting ready to post that outside the territory. Right now we're trying so very hard to house, to find that resource inside. But so far that's not happening. If you have some suggestions for us on the outside, let us know. We'd love so much for someone from the VI to come back home and be our plant pathologist. If you know someone studying, let us know. But we're trying our best, first in-house and then outside if we can. Thanks for asking. Okay.
At one time when I was with waste management, different cities or states would give a federal employee or state employee to come and work for a year or two, continue the same great salaries and paid for by those states. So that could be another opportunity through the USDA. And maybe a state like Iowa or New York, they might have extra person, they might be able to come and locate here for a year, but they'll be also paid by them.
Thank you for that, Harriet. We are open to all those suggestions, nothing off the table right now. We are open to those options as well. Thank you.
The remaining slides are going to try to give you an understanding of what we believe is really one of the highlights of what the local Food and Farm Council is trying to do, and that is the Public-Private Partnership Investment Fund. It is an application process that farmers and fishers can utilize, and we hope the town hall will give you a sense of what are the requirements, how you can file the application, when decisions are going to be made, and what are the things we'll be looking at. So again, the print may be small, but we will make sure you get all of this, and I will go over it. The application deadline for these funds, and remember we have $500,000 that we hope to distribute, is the end of May, May 31st. So please keep that date in mind. We are committing ourselves to make a decision in 2 months after the application deadline is finished. We do not want this to drag out. Those who qualify, we want them to receive the funding immediately or as soon as possible, because we have to make a case to the legislature that we have distributed the funds and that they are having an impact. The application is available on our website, and I provided that. The Agriculture Business Center has it on their website, which I shared earlier. You can go to them, make an appointment. They can help you fill it out if you have concerns. Yes, question?
Also wanted to let you know that St. John does have an office as well. I'm not a counselor, the CDC counselor for St. John, so I can help any.
Excellent. And that's the resource sitting right next to you. You can submit them by email to us. I think the one on our website is going to be a fillable form, so you can fill it out right online. Next slide. It is funding for this fiscal year, and we are the grantors. These are grants. They are not loans. We do have, through EDA, a whole series of loans that farmers and fishers can take advantage of. We will provide that information to those who are not successful, but we are really trying to get individuals to take advantage of these grant funds. So they are grants. Um, we have broken it into 2 tiers, and this is just a way of trying to segregate out those individuals who are new to the industry and those who have been in the industry for some time. So tier 1 is for individuals who have 5 years or less in the fishing or farming industry. We are saying the range, and that's all it is, it's a range, is between 25,000 and 100,000. As I've said before, if everyone applies for the 100,000, we won't have much to send around. But we're just trying to create a range. I'll answer your question in a moment. Tier 2 is for entities that have 5 or more years of, or we really should say more than 5 years of experience in the industry. The assumption is that they may need more funding to achieve some of the things they're after, and the range there is 40,000 to 100,000. You don't have to be in the range to apply. If you are in the 0 to 5 and all you need is $5,000 to develop a new approach or to buy a particular instrument, still apply. We're just saying that in general, that is the range. We believe somewhere in that range is the kind of point of impact where investing will make a difference, but we have to listen to you and what you have to say. Was there a question? Okay, thank you. Next slide. Eligibility, pretty straightforward. Have to be 18 years or older. You must be a legal resident in the Virgin Islands. You must have a legally registered business. In essence, you have to be licensed. These are investments that we're making. So we want to make sure the people we are in, or the businesses that we are investing in, are operating appropriately. You have to demonstrate that you are actively involved in agriculture or fishing within the territory. If you did it 5 or 10 years ago, that doesn't work. We're looking for people who are actively engaged now because we want the impact to be immediate. Next slide. There are 3 categories of individuals who can apply. An individual farmer or fisher. If you are a solo proprietor, you can apply. We also are looking for individuals who are in farming or fishing organizations. That is, if you have formed an organization with others, you can apply as an organization. And the funds would go to the organization. But that says you should be legally organized because we have to send the funds to a legal organization. Because we're trying to encourage the creation of cooperatives, we are making the funds available to cooperatives that already exist or individuals who are in the process of forming a cooperative. Commissioner Peterson later on can talk about the importance of cooperatives. Next slide. I want to walk through the application. And I, again, apologize. I wish you were closer so you could see some of this, but you will get copies of it. Oh, you have them. Okay, wonderful. So the first category is just the basic information of name, organization, address, etc. We want to know where you are because we really do want to make sure each island receives some of these funds. So we need you to designate that for us, and you need to tell us what category you are in. Next slide. You need to designate the various tiers, whether you're tier 1 or tier 2. And if you are in one of those tiers, you need to tell us what your target amount is. Again, I just want to emphasize, these are arbitrary target amounts. We're not saying it can only be these amounts. That's why the other category is there, so you can indicate that my amount is this, and that's for both tiers. One of the, section 6 is for a special program. We heard from the farming community that there are times when farmers go after major federal grants, and in order to obtain the grant, they need matching funds. USDA will say, we'll give you 100,000, but you need to come up with 10. This program is in essence saying, if you are able to obtain the federal grant, we will do the matching portion. So you fill out 6 only if you are seeking the matching portion. Okay? And on that, and in section 6, we're just asking you to tell us what is the source? Is it USDA? Is it EDA? Whatever, how much have you received or are hoping to receive? And what do you hope to do with that particular grant? Okay? Next slide. Section 7 is indicating, again, whether you are doing the matching or whether you are trying to create a cooperative. If you are an individual farmer trying to get funds, looking for reimbursement for some equipment you may have recently purchased, or looking to purchase equipment. This is just giving us a preliminary sense of how you hope to use the money. We're going to ask for some additional questions in a moment, but this is just broadly telling us, what do you hope to do? Next slide. 8 through 12 are really some of the most important questions you have to answer for us, because it's going to be through these questions that we can determine whether someone really is a viable candidate. First, or number 8, what is the purpose of this investment? That is, what do you hope to do with these funds if they are provided to you? 9, provide us with an overview of your business. What business are you in? How do you operate? We need to have a sense of who you are as a business person, or who and how this business operates. Investment utilization plan, which is number 10, is asking you to tell us how you will use the funds in a much more specific way. You may, under 8, say my purpose is to buy equipment, but under 10, we want you to be much more specific of how you are going to utilize the particular equipment. Or if you are looking to expand your operation, how do you plan to expand? Will that be done all at once? Do you plan to do it over a certain period of time? You have to be as specific as possible. 11 is, what is the impact? If we give you these funds, what will we see different in 6 months? What will we see different in a year? So none of us have a crystal ball, but as business people, we have to be able to say, if I had this investment, my productivity would increase by this amount. If I had this type of equipment, I could add a new line of activities in my business. So you have to tell us what the impact is. Because we have to tell the legislature, when we're asking for more money, what the impact was of the $500,000 that they gave us to invest. And you have to help us tell that story. 12 is, What is your experience and track record? We asked you to say something about your business and what you're in, but what have been some of your successes since you've been in business? What are some of the things that you feel proud of that you have done? It may be you started out with just 2 acres, and over time you have been able to acquire 10, 20 acres, and that has increased your productivity. Maybe you started out with just 1 vessel that you were renting, and now you have 3 vessels that you own. That gives us a better sense that this person is serious, that they know how to use the resources that we would provide. Next slide. 13 is accountability. Normally, the grantor says to the individual receiving the grant, here's how we're going to hold you accountable. What we're asking you to do is to tell us how you will hold yourself accountable. What will you put in place to make sure that the funds we give you are being used appropriately and not being wasted? How will you tell us on a periodic basis how these funds are having an impact and not wait until the end to tell us that? Productivity, this is kind of duplicative, but 14 is saying what I said earlier around impact. Tell us how this is going to increase your productivity, because that's what the agriculture plan is all about. Data indicates that we import 93% of the food products that we consume. And the goal is to get that number of imports down. And the only way we can do that is by increasing productivity. And so we need to know what you are projecting that increase to be if you get 50,000, or even if you get 5,000. It should make some difference in how much you are able to produce. Sustainability may not apply in every situation, but because as a local food and farm council, we are sensitive that sometimes productivity can harm the soil. That is, you may in the short run increase your productivity, but you are depleting the soil, so 5 years from now, nobody can use it. So we're wanting you to address the issue of sustainability. It may be that there is not a direct link to what you're doing as it relates to sustainability, but you should at least affirm that what it is you're doing is not going to harm the environment in some way. Timeline. If you receive the money in early August, when do you think you would be able to begin to implement whatever it is that you've said you're going to do? And when do you think you would begin to see some results? We don't have a timeline. We are looking for you to tell us. I would say, and this is my own personal bias, we don't want this to be something that drags out forever. If you're saying, give me 100,000 and maybe 10 years from now, things will be different, that's not going to interest me personally. I can't speak for the other council members. We are hoping that in a reasonable amount of time that this investment will begin to create some difference. So you have to tell us what you think that reasonable time frame is. And then 17 is any additional information. There may be some things that we overlooked. There may be something that will fill out the picture for your application, and 17 is there to do that. Next slide. 18 is kind of, even at the application stage, we're wanting you to make some affirmations to us. Number one, that what you're saying is true. Because if you are misleading us, if you're giving information that's not right, then that's hurting the whole project. If these funds aren't used properly, then you can rest assured that the Daily News is going to have a major article saying the local food and farm council gave out all of this money to people who provided false records. They don't even have a business, and yet they got $50,000. So we really need individuals in the application to affirm that what you're saying is the truth. And also, because we can't just take your word for it, at the application stage, we are just trying to make a preliminary cut as to whether these are really viable candidates. And then we're going to need additional information. If you say to us, I have been increasing my production by 5% every year, then we are going to come and say, what's the records? You know, what do you have to substantiate that? So we don't want to have you give us all of that information up front, because it may be that you may not even qualify. But when we look at those applications that we think are viable, then the next stage is to say, here are the additional information that we need from you. And then finally, because we want you to be an advocate with us to the local government, if you have been successful, if your investment is paying off, if it's making a difference, then we want you to come before this body, the legislature, and say, here's what happened. Getting this investment from the local food and farm council allowed me to do this. Without it, I would not have been able to do that. And so we want that up front, that you are willing to do that. There will be, if you are selected, a broader agreement that you will have to sign for these funds. We have legal counsel that has developed an agreement. There will be nothing in there that you wouldn't expect, but this is really a contract between us and you as individual farmers and fishers. Next slide. Okay, I'm not going to go into this right now. I think this is the appropriate time to stop and find out what questions exist.
Hello, hi. My name is Mayumi Roller. I'm a St. John farmer here. So if it's decided that an applicant does not qualify, will that applicant be notified, and will there be reasons given?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not that in any way reveals information about others who applied, but we would either say you didn't meet the qualifications, or it may be that you did, but there were, more applications than we could address, and therefore yours was not selected because either the impact was not as great as some of the others, or what the other applicants said. It may be that you may be asking for such a large amount that we felt that we could not provide it. But again, this is a decision-making process, and within the council, there's a group of individuals who will form a subcommittee that will do that type of screening, and they will present their recommendations to the full council.
And who chooses who that subcommittee is?
We do.
You do.
The council does.
And will any of the farmers who are honorary members be part of the voting members of that?
They will not be on the selection committee.
Okay.
Mainly because we did not want to have them submit applications
Right.
and be in the room when we are reviewing those applications.
And then will it be public knowledge which farmers do receive grants?
Oh, yes.
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 Okay.
All of it will be very transparent.
Okay.
We have to, as a council, if we want to have any integrity, indicate that we received 50 applications.
Right.
We had funding to only support 15, and here are the 15 entities that received, and here are the amounts that they received. It is a public process.
Perfect. And then I guess, so, I mean, you know, my mom's been farming much longer than I have, but I've been a part of all of the farming procedures my entire life. But, and I know that like applying for more than $100,000 would be beneficial for us or any farmer present or not present at this meeting tonight. But so is it better to apply for a smaller amount, or say we know that $100,000 will be beneficial to us and so we apply for that, but because you mentioned that maybe we're asking for a number that's too high, and because there's so many applications that you've received, maybe we don't receive anything, will we receive a smaller number, or are we only getting the literal number that we write down?
Yeah, all excellent questions. Let me start with the last one first.
Right.
We would not disqualify someone outright because we felt their number was too high.
Okay.
Okay? But we might decide that the story you've told us in the application doesn't support that type of investment.
Okay.
Our choice may be to say you're excluded altogether, or to say we have a smaller amount than what you asked for, that based on our description, and that's why we have the expertise of individuals who know these industries, who would say you could probably do what you're trying to do with much less. The real difficulty I anticipate is that we're going to have so many compelling applications that we're just going to have to make some hard choices, and that somebody not getting funded is not because they had a bad application, it's just that someone else had a little stronger one.
Okay.
It's what happens in industries when you're selecting candidates. It's not
Right.
like everybody who didn't get the job was a bad applicant. It's just that someone else had a more compelling case. We asked for $3 million, okay, because we felt that is the type of investment that's needed when we were only looking at farming, okay? We weren't even considering the fishing industry at that time. So we don't have as much as we would like to invest. So everyone should know that. That is, we're dealing with $500,000. That can only go so far, especially across 3 islands.
Yeah.
So I think applicants have to be sensitive to that, but at the same time, I don't want to say to you, you know, only ask for small amounts, because, I mean, our goal is to have an impact, to increase productivity. So if 100,000 is what you feel would allow you to double or triple your productivity, which is something we need, then that may be something that appeals to us. But I would say, and this is like any type of industry or process, the more you ask for, the stronger your case has to be.
Right.
You know, if someone is asking for $5,000 because they want to buy a piece of equipment and they can demonstrate that their productivity is going to double just from having this tractor, that's an easier investment decision than someone saying, I need $100,000 because I
Right.
want to purchase all of these new acres, or I want this very new vessel for farming, and my productivity, you know, may increase a bit. That's a harder sell. But I can't tell anyone how to make their own case. You have to make the best case you can. I do know that the individuals who are on the selection committee are going to operate in good faith to try to evaluate what we receive and make the best decisions. I know today that there are going to be people who are upset that their
course.
application wasn't funded. I mean, that's just the nature of the system. But we have to operate in good faith to make the best judgments we can.
And so, sorry, I know you have a question, but is there could there be a part added to the application that like allows applicants to state that they are happy with any amount granted, even if it's $1,000 to assist in these things. Maybe they're asking for 100,000, but if they're like, I'm okay with $1,000, or literally any number between $1 and that, you know, because is it the council's intentions to spread out the funds as much as possible, or to really target, you know, a few people? What are the council's intentions? I guess that does depend on what people, their applications and what they write, but do you have an idea of what your intentions are?
I think part of the questions in the application is telling you what our criteria are. I mean, that's why, because that's the only information we have,
Right.
is what you put on the application. So it's not just questions, it's really our criteria. So what is going to be the impact of what it is you are saying you want these funds for? How is the productivity going to increase? So if you are saying, I think I'm just going to ask for 1,000 because I have a greater chance of getting that, but 1,000 is not going to have any
Right.
impact.
Not much.
Yeah.
But every dollar helps, it really
Yeah,
does.
I know, I know, but remember,
Yeah.
you're in a competitive process
Right.
where the thing that's driving us, and this I can be clear, is we are trying to enhance productivity.
Yeah.
I mean, that was why the plan was asked for. It is the reason why the legislature and governor was willing to provide us with the funds we have, is they want to see productivity. It's not that they want all farmers and fishers to go around saying, we got $1,000 and we're happy. I think they want us to make strategic investments that can make a difference. And I recognize that giving everybody $1,000 would be a nice thing, but it's not going to move the needle. So you have to be honest with yourself about what it is you realistically believe would be an investment that's going to make a difference. That section on additional information that I mentioned is always available for you to say, here is my plan, and I really believe that 50,000 is what's going to really transform my operation. However, if I can't meet that number, let me tell you how I could make some additional progress with even 20.
Right.
You're free to add that to that section.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. I know.
Hi, I'm Celia, and under number 10, the investment utilization plan is basically a budget. If they line list everything that they need and say it comes up to that $100,000, if you can only give them 50, will you itemize what in that budget line item that you are considering funding, or not get that detailed?
Yeah, that's a good question. The council hasn't talked about that, so I can't say that that's where we would come out. I can only speak personally. I'm a little reluctant to begin to tell people that this is what you can use these funds for and nothing else when they've given me a list of different things. I think if we are convinced that the plan, because the plan is, I mean, on one level you're right, the plan is a budget, but it's also more than that. It is telling us how you are going to implement this, either in stages or however. So we have to try to understand how you are going to implement these processes.
Okay.
And if we feel we can't do everything you're asking for, but this is a good plan, and we would like to see some of it implemented, then, again, speaking for myself, I might be inclined to say, let's give them half, but I don't think I want to go so far as to say, here are the only items on your budget that you can use this for, unless you had some things down there that I just felt didn't
Or
even
if we
make
if we
sense.
decided to say, okay, this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and make it pretty clear and show the impact levels for each phase. And you can say, okay, we're really interested in phase 1.
Certainly, that is an
Okay.
approach to take.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if you were asking a question or you want to help me answer some of these.
While Dr. Hall, we have to take this back to the council to vote, I think one of the suggestions is if we do agree that someone applied for 100,000 and we can only give them 50,000, they would have the opportunity to scale their project, and we can give feedback on here are the items we clearly saw increasing productivity. Now it is up to the farmer to either work with the Ag Business Center to scale it, to then resubmit a new budget and a plan, which could be phased based on the approved amount. And like this process is just brainstorming with you all based on what you just said, so it still have to be vetted and approved by the council in a conversation. And just second, I wanted everybody to hear that this is not an exercise in futility, right? So if we are overwhelmed with applications that ask for more money than we can give away, I know usually that's like we've lost, but that is data that Dr. Hall and Dr. Peterson can take to the legislature and say, when we asked for 3 million, it was because we understood the need, and here is a demonstration of the types of investments that farmers are asking for. This percent was in infrastructure, this percent was in labor, this percent was a capital cost. So I know it seems like, oh my gosh, there's only $500,000 and everybody won't get everything. But trust me when I say every application will matter, because it becomes a tool for their lobbying and advocacy and to push the policy to meet the needs of the farmers. And then when they go to the legislature and do that, you all have the opportunity to call your representatives and say, hey, I was a part of that meeting, I was a part of that application process, and it could have made a difference in my business. Please consider putting more money in it, and we can move the needle together. Like, so when I said I was excited, I just needed everybody to hear, yes, everybody won't get funded in the first round, but your applications are absolutely helpful, and asking for what you really need is absolutely helpful, because if we play small, we don't get to the $3 million.
Thank you. You want to come up here? No. Question?
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Leonardo Perez. I'm a farmer in Bordeaux and also practice architecture in the island. Want to thank you all for coming and representing. It means a lot to me that we as St. Johnians get a representation and participate. One of my questions has to do with that, our island in particular, how much challenging is here to farm, how much more expensive is to get equipment, materials, seed, shipping, and also labor. And I am curious if the council has done some research in understanding what are the differences in financial multipliers of what is the cost in St. John versus St. Thomas and then St. Croix, having the best soil, St. Thomas maybe more accessibility, and then us here, which are just far away. If we want to make this really happen with farming here, we really need to consider the challenges that we're having and turn them into opportunities. And living here for 12 years, I've seen a lot of opportunities. And they don't seem to synchronize with a lot of the intentions or programs that the agricultural department has been laying down in the past. It makes it even harder for us. Even participating makes it harder for us. I did a beekeeping course that I qualified and I'm really grateful for. But that took a lot of energy from the 4 participants that we had here to go all the way there to do it when we have an agricultural department here, facilities that are quasi-abandoned in a great location where we really can grow in the best, probably the best valley on the island. So my question is, in this qualification process, I am concerned because I've done a lot of, I have participated with USDA and in the Ag Department in other situations. Particularly with the USDA has been very energy consuming for me, to the point that I'm not understanding how do they finance this whole endeavor where I'm still not even engaging yet doing things with contracts. I am concerned about how us as St. Johnians will suffer from this, or how can we be considered as different? Because we're the smallest, but it's the easiest place to make a difference. And that's what I really see as a potential as well. So yes, I guess the question, refreshing back to the question, is how are we considered in this application process different if we are at all?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent question. I can definitely say that the council has not done a systematic study that looks at how more challenging it is to do farming in St. John versus the other islands. People may have their intuitive insights around that, but we have been focused on trying to implement these various programs. I think the type of study that you're talking about is definitely worth doing, but that's not something we have done. In regards to this application process, our cardinal principle is that we are going to, assuming we get grants from all 3 islands, we will fund applications on all 3 islands. If an individual from St. John, as a part of their application, can address some of the issues that you're talking about. The reason my productivity is here as opposed to here is because I have this hidden costs that folks on St. Croix and other places don't. And if this grant allowed me to address some of that hidden cost that's not there for others, my productivity would go up. Then I think that's a viable case to be made. But we are not going to say St. Croix has more land available for farming and therefore 90% of these funds are going to go to St. Croix. We are going to be driven by what comes in the door. That is, who is willing to make the case that I need X or Y in order to increase the productivity, and we really are encouraging people to make their case. And as was indicated, we will operate in good faith and we will take what is being said seriously. And Ms. Sibley Brown's point is that it's an application, but it's also a story that you're telling. It's data that we are receiving as well that will allow us to better understand what's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question.
Sure.
At the beginning, in order to qualify, you have to have a business, registered business. So that's not an individual farming. You have to register a business, correct?
Well, you have to be licensed.
I'm licensed already as a farmer. I don't need to have a registered business. I could be a sole proprietor. Okay.
Yes, you can be a sole proprietor. We had, in the criteria, you could be an individual, you could be a farming organization, or it could be a cooperative. So a sole proprietorship actually fits into the category.
Thank you.
Okay? I think we had a question on the front row.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is either Jamie Kennedy or Jamie Penn, depending on what you want to refer to me as. Basically, I guess this is like not so much a question and maybe more of like kind of a comment type thing. But so I'm a farmer here on St. John, and I've just recently embarked on my endeavor. You know, it's been a wonderful experience through all the trials and tribulations. Basically, the whole idea of this being kind of a competitive process, you know, I think that obviously, you know, that's the way the system is and that's the way that this is structured and stuff. But it does kind of break my heart as somewhere that we struggle a lot to make it as farmers, that suddenly it's kind of like that idea of we're pitted against each other, which I know is kind of the nature of what the situation is, and ideally you would have had more funds and all of that kind of stuff, right? So then that leads me to my next question in terms of like, what does like a cooperative mean to you guys, and what are you envisioning when you're thinking about that avenue?
Yeah.
And what are you considering if farmers are like, okay, what happens if we come together as a group of farmers and say maybe this is a collective thing that we could all benefit from? what does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the cooperative issue over to Commissioner Peterson, but I do want to address the first two aspects of what you said. Yes, it is unfortunate that we have limited funds and we probably have greater needs than funds. But I am puzzled as to how you can solve that, because it would mean that if we're not doing a competitive process, and I don't like the word competitive because it kind of says I want to undercut her, because if I undercut her, then I'm going to end up getting it. It is just to make the best case you can, because if we don't allow everyone who qualifies to apply, then it's going to be the commissioner choosing the people he knows. I just met you, but you know, I like the way you look, so you know, hey. And none of us would want that. So when you have limited funds and a large need, you have to have some process where people can make their case, and individuals who don't have an agenda. You know, I really don't have farmers who I know that I want to say, yeah, I really want this person to get it. I sincerely believe in trying to move the needle. As I said, I have a full-time job running the university, but I've worked for the last 3 years on this because I know that food affects me and my family and my friends. And so anything we can do to improve the productivity process is going to be a benefit to us all. But I don't have an agenda, and I don't believe the other council members who will be making these decisions have an ulterior motive other than the one that we've all agreed upon. So I wish we had more. I wish this was something where we could just make major investments in the farming industry. But when you're using public funds, you have to have some way of making sure you're using it wisely and that you're holding the individuals accountable. Because otherwise, as you know, public funds could be used for a lot of other things as well, and taxpayers are going to look to us if they feel we have not utilized these funds appropriately. So that's my answer to the first two. On the benefits of cooperatives, would you like to speak to that? No, I'll give him mine.
Sure. Based on the conversation tonight, somehow I expect a lot of applications to come into us. And we want a lot of applications to come into us. Now, part of the incentive for us really is to encourage organization within the farming and fishing communities. There has not been enough of that happening. And we believe that's one of the missing links to strengthening the ag and fishing industries. So any organization at all would be something that we really welcome. Farmers getting together to pool their resources to address their common needs. So as an organization, that's a big thing for us. We would be really willing and happy to receive the applications. Now, a cooperative is also an organization on a different level. A cooperative has a legal definition. There are some persons who come together collectively and they may call themselves a cooperative. If you do so, we still accept your application. If we do so, we still encourage you. When you become an official cooperative, though, it speaks to the specific business structure that you have. It speaks to the principles that you adhere to, your mission and everything else. It also puts you in touch with a bigger network of organizations. There are many funding opportunities for organizations. There are even more for cooperative efforts, and that is why we're encouraging cooperatives. Here in the territory, one of the main issues that we have in the production aspect is the high cost of production, as you just expressed. Of course, one of the ways of addressing that is that farmers and fishermen come together, pool their resources as a cooperative, and address their own production issues, their input issues. Pooling their resources, importing their needs in bulk, that reduces cost. That is one of the big benefits that I can address the needs that you're just describing there. So we are saying to you that as an organization, we accept your application and encourage you because it builds capacity in organization. As a cooperative, you can do even more so. As a cooperative, you're even in touch with other cooperatives that can come to your rescue, come to your aid to give you that additional support by the principles of cooperative work anyway. And what we plan to do within the next several months is coming to St. John and delivering some presentations and workshops that basically describe to you what we mean by cooperative, why it's beneficial to you. And you can look forward to that, and that's going to help a lot with the questions that you're asking this evening. But even if you call yourself a loose collective of producers, we still welcome your applications. Okay? Thank you. Hope I answered your question. Did I?
Just to confirm that the last sentence you just said, even if we were not a
Formally.
registered, whatever, former cooperative, if we're a
Yes.
loose collective, because we, like Josephine, you know, my mom, Corbett Organic Gardens, and Jamie here, we do work cooperatively every day, but we're not, you know, anything official, whatever.
Accepted. Our goal in working with you, though, if you're interested, is to get you from that level to being a formal cooperative. There's right now an entity on St. Thomas that calls themselves a cooperative, and they do collective work. My question to them was, are you interested in becoming a formal cooperative? The answer is yes. We're going to see where this goes right now, fine-tune our kinks, and then we want to move on to being a formal cooperative. So that is where we stand as the Department of Ag and as a local Farm and Food Council. If you're interested, would facilitate your growth and progress from where you are to a cooperative entity, definitely.
And so just to again confirm, so say we're in the process of this application and say Jamie and myself and Josephine, my mom, decide to apply for something that maybe benefits us and Leo included or any other St. John farmers, it's something that like we could share amongst the group of us. We can do that from one application and just kind of specify that in our,
Simply yes.
Okay.
Answer is yes.
okay, wonderful, thank you.
But you should specify who the entities are who are making up this. Because remember, you had those three categories, an individual, an organization, or a cooperative. And if you're in essence saying we are a cooperative in process, then we need to know who's in it. You know, who are the entities that are making this up. And I certainly believe that this would be something that we would look upon favorably because it does get at some of those issues that we've been talking about. That is, if I'm buying the same thing individually, I'm probably increasing my costs when I could buy it, or we could buy it in bulk and lower some of that cost.
Right. And then again, you mentioned that in the future there will be some training on what a cooperative is. I have a loose sense of it in my mind, but I
answer
really
is
don't
yes.
know.
The answer is yes.
But say for whatever reason we decide we want to cooperate with each other, but what if we don't want to be a official cooperative but still cooperate with each other in ways that benefit us that don't fit under that? Is that okay?
You are free to do so. We do not impose
Okay.
the cooperative concept on anyone. We actually prefer that you choose to be a cooperative. That is the way it's supposed to work.
Right.
The first principle of cooperative work is autonomy. You're choosing and needing and seeing the need and the benefit of being a cooperative. That is not something that would ever impose upon you. We'll facilitate, educate, and promote.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, too.
And one more quick question. Say Jamie and Leo and Mayumi wanted to apply as a loose cooperative. Could they also apply as individuals?
Excellent question. There's nothing that precludes you from doing that. The question, though, is how it
Right. Like they as a cooperative could apply for a piece of equipment, and then individually they could apply for their own initiative and productivity. Okay.
as long as they are committing to use that equipment cooperatively and they are going to. But you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Oh, but the people on.
Yeah, the mic is primarily for the people online.
And based on that, Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
So just kind of to like clarify from my own brain. So basically, some of the positive goals that you are seeing from this is, regardless of who gets accepted for the applications, there's this allotment of data, which will be really, really valuable in terms of what you bring to the legislator and stuff like that. But from that perspective, but also that also provides data on kind of like almost like a feasibility study in of itself, almost, by gathering these applications and kind of hearing what people need, and then for that might be for future endeavors.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like your criteria, the main goal is to increase the production of agriculture here, is what's being grown here, opposed to having that importation.
Yes.
And so if you're looking at an application or a series of application or a cooperative or whatever it might be, you're looking at, okay, we see this as being something that territory-wide will benefit our islands and our people. And that's like truly where your heart lies, basically.
Yep.
Is that?
No, I think that's an accurate description.
Okay.
The productivity part of this is definitely there. It's at the core of why we're doing this. I think if we had said to the legislature, we need 2 million because we just want to, do some things. We don't know what we don't know what we're going to do, and we don't know what the impact is going to be. But we need 2 million. I think they would have laughed us out of this room. But what was driving them is they know that we got to change the dynamic. Importing 93% of what you consume, it just makes us enormously vulnerable on an island or on islands. But second, just think of the resources that are going to some producer someplace else as opposed to the people who live here. So that's their motivation, and it's clearly our motivation. And the more we can make that case to them that you're not going to increase productivity without making some investment. Some of that investment is like resources, the Agriculture Business Center, because being in business is a challenging enterprise. And if you're a small business, you don't always have an accountant you can hire or a lawyer that you can hire, but to at least have a place where you can go, where there are individuals who can sit with you and say, here's what you need to do and how can we help you do that, is a resource. Having the public-private partnership investment fund is a direct resource to help productivity. And the long-term idea is that we have to start educating children now so that they will be the individuals who want to replace you, because there's a misconception among many of our youth about farming. It's hard work, and I don't want to do that. I mean, it is hard work, but it has a lot of other benefits, and there are a lot of other things you can do as a farmer. So it's all of those things, but increasing productivity and the sustainability. I don't want to, just dismiss the sustainability, because if you're thinking about future generations, you have to make sure you're using the land properly. And so that is something to keep in mind as well.
Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
With all this data that you will gather, like when will you be able to ask them for more money? Because it
Well,
sounds
it
like
will
you'll probably
have to be for the next fiscal year, and this is the tightness that we're in. The legislature will start having hearings, I think,
like they're
in
doing
June.
their budget process.
And so by September, we will have to have made our case, if not sooner, to get additional funds. And if we go to them in August and we say, well, we haven't done anything with the money you gave us, you can imagine what the response is going to be. So that's why we want to have these dollars out in the street or in farms so that people are utilizing them. And this data that may come as to the unmet need, it will be part of our case. So these funds were given for the 2024 fiscal year. No, they operate from October 1 to September 31st. So we have 4 or 5 more months in this fiscal year, but they have to make decisions about the next fiscal year no later than September. And so we need to get our case in front of them, and part of that case is going to be what I shared, which is the progress we've made, but part of it is going to be the applications that we have funded collectively say that they will increase productivity by X amount, because that's what they're charging us to do. And then when we come before them the next time, hopefully the time frames that people have put in their application is not only am I projecting an increase in productivity in a year, but a year later you can see it and our case becomes stronger. Any questions online yet? Okay, good. Here.
I just want to bring up again maybe a little bit on the topic of the particularity of St. John again, and that if it's not from St. John, how is it local? Because we're calling it local because we have politically a connection between 3 islands. But there's really no like easy exportation and importation among us. And how are we going to suffer as farmers in St. John competitively against the other 2 islands when they can just simply, with better land, cheaper everything, just export it here or import it to us, right? So I'm just want the council to be mindful of that situation and how it actually could be to the detriment of our local farmers here. We recently had an agricultural farmers market put up by the Ag Department, and there was only like maybe 2 or 3 local farmers, and we have very little amount to sell. But most of the other tables were regional farmers. And they usually have tables there and sell there because they have that constant input of produce. But that's also making it more competitive for us to be able to sell things for the price that is right for us to exist in this island and not shut down our operations and not demoralize our interest and our passion in our agriculture and sustainability in this island. So just again asking the council to be very mindful about these differences that we have among each island to boost our ability to grow here.
Okay. I think you've made the case, and there are at least 4 council members here who have heard it, and we will take it under consideration. That's as much as I can say at this, because it's not an easy answer.
Yes.
You know, because we are a territory, and these funds were not given for St. Thomas or St. Croix or St. John. It was given for the territory, and so we have to try to distribute them in a manner that makes sure that everyone participates. But we can't, and again, this is just me speaking, we can't suppress productivity in St. Croix because we want to safeguard St. John. I don't think they would buy that as a strategy for increasing productivity.
Absolutely understand.
And when you're importing 93%, I think there's room for us to grow on all 3. I think part of what you're getting after is how do we ensure that the productivity that is happening here is appreciated and understood in a way that may be different from what's happening in other places? And how do we connect you up with sources not only here, but sources other places within the Virgin Islands that appreciate what you are producing that may be different or the same than others? So it's a powerful point, but I can't sit here and say I have the answer to that. But it's something that we will definitely keep in mind as we are going through the applications, but more importantly, as the council continues to think about what are the long-term solutions to the problem of productivity in the Virgin Islands.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Let me end with my last slide and then let you out of here. Nope, you were already at the next slide. If you could go back. You were already ahead of us. Thank you. One of the things that was funded is a comprehensive data collection process, because we don't have that. The USDA does a farming census every 7 years, 5 years, but in order to really develop policy, we need to know what's happening annually. And so the Eastern Caribbean Center, which is a part of the University of the Virgin Islands, is in the process of developing a comprehensive annual survey of farming and fishing, which will ask you questions about a lot of things that's happening, so that we have that data not only to inform what we do, but again, going back to your point of how do we advocate to the legislature in a way that helps us understand the uniqueness of all three islands. So you will get a communication from the Eastern Caribbean Center asking you to fill out a survey. And I know sometimes these things get tedious and boring when you're trying to do a lot of other things. But if we don't have your voice, if we don't have your information, then we can't make informed decisions. So look out for that survey request, and we will use that data to inform what we do and to inform the local government. Last slide, which we've already done as well, which are questions and comments. Yes.
So not about the application process here, but back to who potentially the St. John farmer could be on the council. Were the other, I think you'd mentioned, were the other St. Thomas and St. Croix farmers governor appointed, or was there a voting that occurred? What was?
No, the first two individuals that we mentioned, Ms. Selassie and Mr. Teetree, were individuals who the governor reached out to to serve on the council. However, as you know, there is a process where they would have to go, because the law requires this, to go before the legislature to be questioned and then confirmed. That process, unfortunately, is a very slow process and has not been completed yet, and we did not want to wait, so we invited them to join as honorary members until that process is finished. There are some activities going on about the St. John representative. I don't know if you want to elaborate on this even more than what I said, or Commissioner?
Basically, I say that there's always a challenge for us when we seek persons to be on councils and everything, calling on the same persons over and over and over. So what the council has discussed and decided to do is to reach out to all the persons on St. John who have either had a farmer's license currently or in the past, and ask them of their interest in being vetted to be a member of the council. So please anticipate, I would say within the next 2 weeks or so, Dr. Hall, please anticipate, if you've registered as a farmer either now or in the past, to get a communication from us asking if you're interested in serving on the council. Having gotten those responses, the council will vet and select someone to be moved ahead. Okay?
And I remember also you had said that there are certain people in the council who are able to, I guess, delegate to someone else if they weren't able to, fully be present in any of the council meetings or something. So say Jamie is elected as, or not elected, but chosen to be the St. John representative, but I mean, meeting every 2 weeks, farm work is tough. Like, we're both here in muddy outfits because we were working all day. Like, is there a way to 1 week be like, hey, Mayumi or Leo, can you be my proxy this council meeting instead?
Yeah.
Or
no, it does get a little tricky.
Okay.
Because the designees that I went over, the act itself says the president or his or her designee.
Okay.
The commissioner or his or her designee. When it goes to the section around farmers, it doesn't have his or her designee. It is that person who has been appointed by the governor. So that's going to be harder. We do have and I think we will continue, even after the, and again, oftentimes I speak as one of the co-chairs, not something we voted on, but even after the governor's process is concluded, I think those individuals who we have under the category as honorary members, if they are willing to continue to participate and share their voice with us, I know they would be welcome. There's a difference between having an appointment from the governor that gives you the right to vote versus being at the meeting and, just as we are doing here today, sharing your views so that council members can hear that.
Okay.
So we really do need the voice of farmers and fishers at the meetings, whether you're a voting member or not. But I also want this process, which the law calls for the governor to appoint, the legislature to confirm, to be concluded, because it adds even more legitimacy to the people that are there. A couple of other points that I should make. The act does provide for some small compensation for those individuals who are farmers, not for us, but for the farmers who do serve. They get a small stipend for every meeting that they attend, and that's a way of recognizing that they're taking time away from their business. The other thing is that we made the decision internally that because a farmer or fisher person is on the council, it should not preclude them from submitting an application.
Right.
They can't participate in the decision-making process. They have to, if they have applied, they have to recuse themselves if they have applied, but they still can submit an application.
And are there other processes or things that occur that farmers would vote on that are different from the application? No.
No.
No. Okay.
No. I mean, if you're on the council, then yes, we try to vote on all things that we are dealing with so that it is the consensus of the council.
Okay.
But there's not a process outside of the council where we are conducting elections or getting people to vote on a particular. We have the town halls as a way of hearing from individuals, and we take that to the meetings. The council member meetings are open. And Ms. Maynard, who is online, or now Ms. Sibley Brown, can provide you with the link to our meetings, and you're more than willing to participate. You can't vote, but you can be there to hear our discussion and to share your advice. We've had individuals who are interested in agriculture who have attended our meetings and made presentations. Before she was in the role of being our local food and farm coordinator, she attended one of our early meetings and gave a wonderful presentation on her organization and the things that they were doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One simple point, we don't want you to be discouraged about being on the council before you even get our letter, okay? The point I'm making is that as a council, we decided to meet every 2 weeks because we're very young. We want to start up, we want to get things going. It may be at a point in time the council decides to meet once a month, as an example. But right now, to get things going, so much to be done, we do meet twice every 2 weeks.
And I think you had sort of whispered, is it meeting virtually or in person?
No, it's virtual.
Virtual.
Because we're scattered all over. And the meetings tend to last only an hour and a half.
And so our meeting link is on our website, VILocalFoodAndFarmCouncil.org. And I believe I was double checking with Ms. Maynard, but our meeting minutes are also there on the website. So I'm double checking for that. So even if you are on the council and you miss a meeting, it is a very active email thread where meeting agendas and meeting minutes come out pretty accurately and pretty quickly, like within 48 hours of our meeting. So you have an opportunity via email to read the notes, and people are contributing and still talking about them if they miss it. It is truly spirited and live conversation, like real-time updates happening all the time. So,
Okay. Well, we have kept you already for, yes, good. Close to 2 hours. This has been very productive. I really thank you for your time. I thank you for your questions. One short story. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. My father was a farmer who moved to the city of Savannah and took a railroad job because he wanted to earn more. But he always continued to have farming in the backyard, raising chickens, etc. And I could say he loved that more than he loved working on the railroad. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a basketball player, and I did not get involved in what he was doing. And he was sensitive enough to know that that wasn't my dream and not to try to dampen my dream. And so when I think of the last 3 years and the amount of time I've spent focusing on agriculture, my father, who has passed away now, I am sure he is in heaven laughing like I don't know what. You didn't want to do anything with these chickens, you didn't want to do anything with these greens I was growing, but look at what you're having to do now. I share that story to say I'm not an expert in this field. There are people who know a whole lot more about farming and fishing than I ever will, and certainly all of you are. But I am committed for however long I'm in this role as president to help move these industries forward and to try to support individuals like yourselves who are daily feeding all of us. So that's my passion for trying to support you, and I really thank you for taking the time out to come and help educate all of us about what your needs are. We'll be in touch. Please apply. If you have questions, utilize the Agricultural Business Center. We have a representative. I wouldn't let her get out the door without making an appointment and making sure that she is available for you. And our local food and farm coordinator is also accessible. So utilize this resource, and I thank you all for being here tonight. And thanks to our council members publicly for their hard work. They do this also out of the love of their heart.
Dara has her hand up. One question from online.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it an official part of the role of the appointed farmers to share updates and information with other farmers and seek feedback from them? So she's asking about the farmers on the
Yeah. It is not by law requested that they have to share or get information. Their role is to really be there in the council and give us their insights. But clearly, we would hope that any representative on the council wouldn't be operating in isolation. So, Dara, the answer is we are asking the individuals who are honorary members to reach out to people who are in their industry and give us that wisdom and insight, but it is not prescribed by law that they do that. We hope that the council can share information and that we take on that responsibility of communicating with you and getting feedback through the website, phone number, question, etc. You're welcome. Have a good evening. Thank you all. Thanks to the legislature for making this available to us. Thank you.